First off, I want to thank the brave men and women who work behind the wall. I want to thank them on a national level because their job goes unrecognized.
How do they try to turn a guard?
Well, correctional officer. Sorry, I apologize. But correctional officer.
How you guys doing? It's Anthony Gangi. Welcome to another episode of Tier Talk. So again, just keeping you updated with the coronavirus. Yesterday, we had a great episode with Dr. Ann Spaulding, so we were able to give you some more specifics. Today, we're going to talk about specifically how it's affecting one of our facilities. Actually, today we're going to be talking about Rikers Island. Rikers Island right now is the facility right now that's been affected by the largest amount of positive testing inside a correctional facility. I have 38 people testing positive from DOC staff, health workers, and people in custody. And today, along with Russ Hamilton, we're going to have Elias Husamudeen. He is the president of COBA. And we're going to go ahead and break down what's going on in Rikers, what are the concerns, and then obviously, guys, this is stuff for us to learn from, because if it's happening at Rikers, guys, it can easily happen at your facility, so you should be taking these videos seriously. So if you don't mind, Elias, can you introduce yourself to my audience?
Sure. My name is Elias Husamudeen. I'm the president of the Correction Officers Benevolent Association in New York. I represent about 10,000 correction officers, and we patrol Rikers Island and all the borough facilities such as the Tombs, Brooklyn House. We have a barge or boat, an 800-bed boat in the Bronx that we call VCVC, and that's who we are. And I represent the men and women who work in these facilities.
I'm going to tell you something, Elias. Me and Russ are a big fan. Russ can't stop smiling. I mean, because you're Elias, what you do on a constant basis, I mean, just wait, you stand up, but your knowledge, your experience, I mean, it's very hard for someone to go toe-to-toe with you, and you just always remain calm, collective, and you don't let them push your buttons.
Well, that's the side that's public. I have 32 years. I've been a correction officer for 32 years, and I've been the president of this union for about 4 years, but I've been a member of the executive board for a little bit more than 20-something years. I'm not a stranger to any of the politics, to any of the issues facing correction officers, but I got to tell you, Tony, right now, this coronavirus is something that we've actually never seen. We've had swine flu, the H1N1, you name it, the Zika, but there's nothing like this right here. And, you know, we have, like you said, about 38 people, those in custody as well as correction officer. Unfortunately, I believe we're the first agency in New York City to actually lose someone to the coronavirus, which was an investigator, civilian investigator named Perez. So right now, you know, my offices are, although, listen, I love them. Despite all of this stuff that's going on, every day they're coming to work. Every day we're still showing up, despite the fact that we know that this thing can take us out, despite the fact that we can take this home. We're coming to work and we're doing everything that we can to keep the public safe.
And the public owes you a giant thanks. I know you guys don't get it enough, so I'd like to thank you, and I'm out in Jersey, so thank you. And Russ, do you mind introducing yourself to my audience again, our audience?
Yeah, of course. My name's Russ Hamilton. I'm a retired sergeant from California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. I put in 27 years with CDCR. I retired, and then I went to work for a small juvenile detention facility in Northern California. And now I spend my time on my website, Facebook website, Keepers of Chaos, and I do content for both Corrections One and Tier Talk.
All right, guys, so we have a very interesting show ahead. We have a lot to discuss, and this is great, guys, because we're actually going to be talking to a facility that's going through it right now, and we're going to know how it's affecting Frontline from the union president, Elias Husamudeen. I actually, believe it or not, guys, for many years, this was on my wish list to get Elias Husamudeen on the show. So I'm able to complete one of my things on my wish list. Elias, it has been on my wish list. So I'm happy right now. I believe Russ is extremely happy right now. He couldn't wait to jump on this opportunity. So, guys, if you haven't, the show Tier Talks for you, you brave men and women that work in corrections. So please Subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. The bell's going to notify you every time I post a video. We're going to go to our sponsor, and when we come back, let's talk about what's going on in Rikers Island.
I wanted to attend a university that had an intelligence program. I wanted to look at problems different. I wanted to increase my critical thinking abilities. AMU offered those avenues to expand. Obtaining your degree as an adult, you're actually paying yourself and investing in yourself. You can't put a dollar on it, it's priceless. It's something that can never be taken away from you.
American Military University. Learn from the leader.
Guys, inmate manipulation is a course that is highly needed. It's the process that's so slow moving and subtle that you don't realize it's happening. When inmates choose to manipulate, they manipulate our need to react. Situational awareness and insight is going to save your career. It's going to save you from doing foolish things. Listen to your gut. So the more insight we have, the more we can recognize what isn't so overt, and we can correct our behavior before we fall into a trap that we can't get out of. If you allow an inmate to pull you out of your prescribed role, you are opening up a door for a host of problems. Inmate manipulation, the psychology behind inmate manipulation. Available now. Link in description.
And we are back. So, Elias, real quick, you mentioned the death of a hero, investigator David Perez.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about what happened and how did that affect your staff?
Well, one of the things is that, he worked in the department as an investigator, investigating use of force and things of that nature. We have uniform, non-uniform members that do that. One of the things that we're dealing with now, to be honest with you, Tony, is, the unknown. One of the things that I've been fighting for religiously is that we need more tools, more supplies, more equipment. I'm not saying that we don't have supplies and equipment, but we need more gloves. We need more masks, definitely more masks, the N95 mask. We need more hand sanitizer. As you know, if you've been looking, the governor, the mayor saying that, we need more. I think the governor just ordered 1 million masks, and I believe half of that is coming to us in New York City. Currently, we have 5,400 inmates in the entire New York City jail system. And right now, we're bracing for the worst, to be very honest with you, because, we have this contained environment of inmates, and we had to fight with the city just to get them to suspend the visits, just to get them to suspend having visitors and volunteers coming into the jail in order to reduce the chances of this virus coming in. Right now, my offices, we've been hit pretty hard as far as confirmed cases of correction officers who've been confirmed to have the virus. We are doing everything that we can to control. So far, we've been able to force the department to separate all the new admission inmates, people who are still coming in and getting locked up every day. We have, politicians or City Hall who seem to want to use this health crisis, to solve, or to cause a public safety crisis by letting people out of jail, which is the most ridiculous thing, because right now, while they're in jail, they have better health care and better access to health care than if we take them and we release them into the street. The fact of the matter is most of them are homeless. Most of them don't even have an address to go to. And while they're in custody here doing their time for a crime that they did commit, to me, it keeps the public just that much more safer. I mean, it's a little bit more dangerous for us, but, we're correctional officers and this is what we do.
Yeah, you know what? Cuyahoga County, I believe Los Angeles, Colorado, I think it's Denver. They've been in the process of trying to release inmates, trying to say that they have to do this because, again, they want to protect the facility. And I know New York, it looks like they're going to be releasing 56 inmates. But like you mentioned, where are they going to go? Or if you rush to get their hearings in, they get sentenced, they're going to go to a prison who is also scrambling. So to me, I feel like they're passing the buck. What's your thoughts on that, Russ, that early release?
We're talking about moving it from, a public health issue to a public safety issue. And from what I've seen on a couple of other programs and things today, I'm kind of at a loss for how this is going to in any way help New York City Department of Corrections function, because it doesn't seem to me like releasing anyone is going to help them in any way. It's just going to put a pool of potential carriers back into the public, especially if as Elias says here, if they're homeless. That's not going to help you guys, is it, Elias?
It's absolutely not. I mean, the bulk. We just not too long ago, they just did bail reform, and the majority of the people that they actually released were homeless. I mean, we put them on the bus, we gave them a bag of their possession, we dropped them off at different points in the 4 boroughs, we gave them a Metro card and said, "See you later." There's no real follow up. There's no one. Helping them find a job or anything like that. So, we got these people who, their whole intent in life is to empty the jails, is to have no jails. Right now in New York City, our inmate population is lower than it's been in the last 30 years. It's never been this low. And the reality is, my fight now with the city of New York is that since the inmate population is this low, now you have the ability to actually, if you want jail reform, you genuinely have the ability to do jail reform now, because at this is the first time where we actually have more correction officers than we have inmates. So we have the ability now, as opposed to having one correction officer for every 50 inmates, which is what we got right now, one officer for every 50 inmates, we can actually have one officer for every 15 inmates. We could have one officer for every 20 inmates. We could actually do the things that correction officer's job is what? Rehabilitation, right? It's our job to rehabilitate. It's our job to reduce the recidivism rate. Well, right now with 5,400 inmates, we have the ability to do that because we have the ability to provide them with services and programs that can actually, the word that everybody uses, the public word, the political word, reentry. Well, we have the ability to better prepare them to reenter the neighborhood, the community, or society better now than when they came in. But, we need the resources, and we need to be able to actually offer, work release, job training, things of that nature. I always say to the public, you can't have it both ways. You can't say lock them up, throw away the keys, and then when it's time for them to come home, I don't want to spend my tax money to educate them or to help them. I mean, you're either going to have one or you're going to have the other. So right now, New York City, honestly, more than any other state in the union, is in a position to actually do real jail reform, and jail reform according to us, according to the boots on the ground, according to the people who are with these people 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Nobody knows inmates better than New York City or better than correction officers, period. Nobody knows them better than we do. And we know the ones who are real, the ones who are not real, the ones that can be helped, the ones that can't be helped. And, if the city of New York, the state of New York, and these other states and cities and counties would listen more to the boots on the ground, then if they really want jail reform and bail reform, they can get it. But they can get it in a way that it doesn't jeopardizes the safety, the life of New Yorkers, of the public. The last bail reform they did, I mean, we've had people who've committed murder. The J.F. Kennedy Foundation released a person, the city released a person, and they went out and murdered people. So if we really want to do this right and do it the right way, then they need to listen to us, because we're the ones who do this on a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week basis, to be honest with you.
You mentioned about correctional officers being involved in rehabilitation, and maybe some out there that questions that. Let me tell you something. Rikers Island actually has a program where the officers actually teach inmates trades, from auto mechanics to culinary arts.
Yes,
so
we do. We do. We actually have correction officers who are certified mechanics. And the city of New York actually bought a vehicle into the jail. And the officers actually teaching inmates how to be a mechanic. We have certified officers who are certified chef, teaching the inmates how to be short order cook. We are teaching the inmates how to cut hair, how to sheetrock. And this is not something that people usually associate with correctional officers. They never associate these type of things with us, although we've been doing this for decades. You know, there are inmates who can't wait for Correctional Officer Husamudeen or Brown or God. They can't wait for us to come to work. We're their only connection to the outside. And we are the ones who tell them, you could, let me tell you something, Tony. Do you know that we've had 2 inmates in the last 6 months who've been accepted to 6 colleges? 6 colleges. That's the correction officer. That's us getting them up in the morning and saying, come on, kid, come on, go to school, go to class, pay attention. You can do better. You can be better. Most people still see us as just plain muscle. And that's just not what it is. I don't know about the other states or cities, but I do know that New York City has the most educated correctional officer in the country. As of 1999, it was required for us to have a minimum of an associate's degree to come on the job. So out of my 10,000 members, about at least 9,000 of them have a minimum of an associate's degree. And, you know, they came on the job for a lot of different reasons. Some came from child services. Some came from, have degrees in education, different things of that nature. And they come to correction because our benefits are better. We get paid more. And they get an opportunity to actually practice or use some of the things that they actually went to school for. So if people begin to see correction officers in a better light, in a proper light, in the correct light, then if they're talking about, and I know it sounds like we're talking ourselves out of a job, but the reality is this is America. It's a capitalist society. We're always going to have jails. We're always going to have crime. So we'll always have correction officers. Now, whether that's 10,000, 5,000, 3,000, 7,000, we'll be here.
Well, I'll tell you something.
I
saw your recent contract. I mean, I know we're going on a little side step, but that's because they're led by a great union, man, because that contract that you guys had was phenomenal.
We were able to negotiate a 36-month deal with about 8% wage increase, and it comes to about 10.25% after you add in the other things such as longevity. And we were able to negotiate and get, you know, $5 million, $10 million in benefits to provide our officers with, you know, healthcare and medical and optical and dental and prescription things. And it was a tough fight because we're talking about the city of New York, but, you know, we were able to get it done. Matter of fact, we should be counting those ballots to ratify that contract next week. But yeah, I mean, brother, let me tell you something. Correction officers worldwide, we do a job. We're not cops. We're not firefighters. Most of the time, we're out of sight, out of mind. Most people only talk about us when something really bad happens and they want these people off the street and in jail, or if something bad happened with us inside jails. You know, unfortunately, I don't have to tell you guys, you know, we're forced to make split-second decisions, and sometimes it could have a real bad outcome. Sometimes for us, sometimes for the inmate. But nonetheless, we have to make these decisions. And, you know, some of the downside is to have people second-guessing us, to have people Monday morning quarterbacking, oh, why did they do this, or they could have did that. But the reality is, Tony, I can tell you, I can talk about correction officers all day long. I love being one. I am a correction officer. You have to be a correction officer in order to be in my union. And it's something that I enjoy doing. And you know, nobody grows up saying, I want to be a correction officer. But it is one of the most gratifying jobs there is if you're in the right state of mind.
Well, I'm going to go to Russ real quick. And then, Russ, by the way, if you have any questions, feel free to ask Elias. But we were talking about the equipment and the mask. And I want people to realize, again, that the mask is really for when the officers are trying to be proactive and they see someone that's with symptoms, the mask is for them to first put it on the person that presents the symptoms, and then if there's enough, they could also start protecting themselves. I don't want people to think that Rikers is asking for the mask so the officers can wear them all day, because that's going to be ineffective. They get wet, the mask aren't going to work. The mask is quickly for, I got someone with symptoms, okay, put it on, you know, protect me from you transmitting it to me, and then if there's need me, I'll protect myself, because again, I'm doing the escort. But Russ, real quick, from the dialogues that you've seen us having, especially with Dr. Ann Spaulding, how important do you think it is to have those masks on those units or available for officers?
Oh, it's critical, because, you know, at any moment, you know, we can experience an inmate coming down with the symptoms. And so, you know, it's not good enough that you would have to wait around for hours or minutes or whatever. You want to be able to, you know, start curtailing any potential exposure immediately. And so, you know, these guys there in New York, they need these items. And that's why, you know, we wanted to come on here and, you know, just put it out there, the things, the difficulties that New York is experiencing. And I wanted to ask Elias, you know, about, first of all, about, you know, the supplies. When do you think you're going to start running out? Is there, for instance, a problem more with where the supplies are at, or is it with the pipeline? Because, you know, we saw some of that with the hurricanes down in Puerto Rico, where there was all this aid given out, and it just ended up sitting in warehouses. And so this is just kind of, I just wanted to put it out there and give Elias a chance to expound on that and talk about what's going to be needed to get our people, because I consider, you know, all of those people in New York, my brothers and sisters. What is it going to take for them to be able to have what they need to do their job and to accomplish the mission?
Well, here it is. The N95 mask, right? I'm not sure if you guys seen, like, the nurses union here been going crazy. You might even want to invite her on, Tony, because they don't have enough of the N95 mask. The shortage with them is so bad that they were told to use the surgical mask instead of the N95 mask. The N95 mask protects us. It actually protects us from them. What we're looking for, what I'm fighting for, is more masks. Currently, according to the department, they have masks. We've been fighting because we want these masks in each one of our facilities. We have hand sanitizers, but we just don't have enough. We have gloves, but we just don't have enough. And the reality is, you know, we're bracing ourselves and we're hoping for the better. We're hoping that we don't have, you know, this huge breakout, because all we need is for enough inmates to contract this thing and go back into this contained environment, and it spreads like wildfire. And there's no number of masks that's going to be able to save us from that. But if we can actually have enough, have more ample masks on hand, we can literally do a better job of protecting not just correction officers, not just those people in custody, but the public, because that's where everybody, including us, is going back to. So do we have masks? Yes. I don't want to speak on the behalf of the department because I'm the union, but they do have masks. My problem and my cry is that we don't have enough if and when this thing happened. Today, the governor of the state of New York said that, in his opinion, 80% of us is going to end up with this, with the coronavirus. My God, I mean, hopefully we're all part of the 20%, but that's just a projection, and that's just saying where we're possibly going to go. One of the other things that we were fighting for, that we just was able to get the state assembly, Assemblyman David Weprin to sign on, and some of the assembly people, is we want them to start doing testing on Rikers. We want them to set up a testing spot on Rikers Island so that correction officers can go there and be tested and not have to go through all the other channels, since we have this contained population amongst us, we want to be able to be tested right there, right on Rikers Island, the same way they're doing it throughout the rest of the city and the state.
Now, Elias, I was watching this video of another gentleman that works at Rikers. I won't say his name, but he mentioned something. I want to run it by you, that he's saying that there is some testing or some preventive measures that are being done, but then you still have to come onto the island. You still got to take the boat or the bus, whatever it is. So you're still mixed in with people. Do they have testing that's done, you know, before anybody steps foot onto the island, or is it done once you're on the island?
Something that they just started doing a couple of days ago. They started with this questionnaire, taking people's temperature. You know, do you have a temperature? Do you have a sore throat? You know, the different symptoms that's connected or related to the coronavirus. So this is something that they just started doing now for everybody, officers, civilians, everybody that come into the jail. You have to have this what's the word for it? Screening. You know, this pre-screening that they're doing. And it's basically the same thing that everybody else is doing, you know, in other agencies and other places. That's just one other thing that we fought for, that I fought with the department, fought with the mayor, you know, so that we could get that done to further help decrease the number of us that might be found with this thing. Since they started that, officers and civilians have been sent home because they were found to have a fever, or they were found to have a sore throat, or they weren't feeling well. So one of the ways that we were able to again reduce the chances of this thing spreading is by doing that screening. I mean, all of these things are things that I've been fighting for from day one. Anybody that go on the COBA website, anybody that go on our Twitter or on our Facebook page can see that, you know, we've been waging a war and a fight to get protection for correction officers and to get protection for the jails, because we know that that's going to ultimately protect the public.
Hey, Elias, those preventive measures like the temperature reads, is that done on the island, or is it done before they get onto the island?
It's done once they get into, right before they go into the facility. Remember, on Rikers Island, we have 10 jails. So all of us correction officers, civilians, when we come in, we work at different facilities. So we go to the facility, and now they have these, you know, they're setting up these triage type of places that before you enter the facility, you have to fill out this questionnaire. You have to, you know, if you have a fever, they take all the preventive measures so that you don't go in and spread whatever it is that you may have. So that's the way it is. It's being done in the jails on the island.
All right, now, Russ, I know you may have a question, but I want to ask one more question for Elias, though. Hey, real quick, why did it take so long to push back on the visitors, the volunteers? Like, why did it take so long for Rikers to decide, hey, let's get just to the bare essential staffing? And with that said, are you guys at the bare essential staffing now? What type of workers are not allowed to come in?
Well, anybody that's been watching the political leadership of New York City understand what we're dealing with. The mayor, it was a fight with him to do something that the state did. But to be honest with you, the state did it on a Saturday at 5 o'clock, and New York City did it on a Sunday at 5 o'clock. But I had already been fighting with him the week before, even before the state did it, saying, let's suspend the visits. The inmates should be able to see their loved ones. And like I said to them publicly and privately, I think the inmates would rather be alive than dead. I think the inmates clearly understand that they get free phone calls, so they can call mommy and daddy and husband and wife all day long because they get free phone calls. Currently, right now, the number of officers that we have at work during each tour hasn't changed. I mean, we're dealing with more, maybe more people calling in, because remember, if you have underlying symptoms, diabetes, high blood pressure, different things, you have to make certain decisions for yourself and for your family. But right now, as far as staffing level is concerned, we're still good on the staffing levels.
Well, I know Russ had a question about the leave, right, Russ?
Yeah, well, I wanted to ask, this is kind of a two-parter. They're not quite really related, but what are they doing with regards toward the leave someone's identified as having a fever? And then secondly, I'd like to know what they're doing about getting the inmates educated about this, because with a population like that, that's, under lock and key, it's essential to have them understanding what's going on. So how are you guys communicating that to the inmate population?
Well, to the department's credit, they have been meeting. We have what we call the inmate council. In all of the jails, we have what's called the inmate council. And these inmates actually are the ones that are communicated with back and forth with the other inmates in the facility. So, to the department's credit, we have correction officers who are assigned to work the inmate council areas, that are assigned to have discussion with the inmates and make sure that they get the information that they're supposed to have. The other thing is, one of the things that are being done, Russ, is when an inmate display the symptoms, cold, flu-like symptoms, coughing, or if the inmate themselves say that I think, that I have it, basically what's done is they're isolated. We have a facility where we take them and isolate them, and we separate them, and they're tested to see whether or not they are confirmed to have it or not. Once they're confirmed, then we have another facility where they're kept. On Rikers Island, we have a facility called the West Facility, where we have what's called the CDU, a facility where we put inmates with a communicable disease unit. It's a communicable disease unit where we put them. So that's how we're handling them right now. We're a little afraid because the West Facility where we do it is a small facility, and we've never had anything like this. I mean, I think the worst time we've ever had was with AIDS, with the AIDS virus, with the AIDS epidemic. We've never really seen anything on this level. So, the agency's talking about preparing other facilities, since we have so many beds, empty beds. Because remember, we can hold up to about 15,000 inmates, and currently we have 5,400. So that's the thing that's being done right now, as far as the inmates who have it and what's done with them.
It's amazing because, I'm sorry, Russ. I just want to add a thought to that, if I may. It's amazing because everybody's been trying to close down Rikers, but thank God that we actually have Rikers right now.
Well, now they're considering even building the hospital, makeshift hospital on Rikers Island. And I was laughing, and I said to the people, I said, oh, so Rikers Island wasn't good enough for inmates. We had to get it out because it was bad. It's a landfill. It's horrible. But it's good enough for older people, for kids. It's good enough to bring people over there who may be suffering from this virus, which, closing Rikers has always been a land grab. Closing Rikers have always been about that, taking that 420 acres of land and using it and doing something else with it, like what they're doing right now, the expanding of LaGuardia Airport. So that, that's really what the shutdown of Rikers is about more than anything else.
I know, Russ, you had another question, Russ?
Yeah, I was going to go back to the other part that I was talking about there. So, in your processing correctional officers through, and as they potentially become exposed or sent home because of the fever or for whatever reason, what accommodations are being made for them with regard to leave and protection of their status?
Well, currently, we're not having any issues. Remember, the state, the city, have all said the exact same thing. If you're sick, stay home. So although we have, our sick leave policy, we're paid when we're out sick. But right now, I don't foresee my officers having any problems, especially those of them who are out as a result of this coronavirus. And that's something that's ongoing negotiations with the city and with the Department of New York, with the City of New York and with the Department of Corrections.
And I want to add something. You mentioned medical. By the way, we would love to have her on. Maybe we can have a nice dialogue with all of us here and just to kind of, do some updates. But how is medical working with custody? How's custody working with medical during this?
Well, remember, the City of New York, the Department of Correction, they license a company called CHS, Correctional Health Services, is the group that provide all medical for inmates, all medical services, all screening, all testing, if they're hurt, if there's violence, if there's a use of force. So that particular agency is still there, and also tied in with the Health and Hospital Corporation here in the city of New York. So those are the people who are actually responsible for the medical care of the inmates that's in our custody.
Do you have a good working relationship with them right now as we go through this coronavirus epidemic?
Well, the reality is we're not fighting. We're all in the same boat right now, to be honest with you. They're exposed to the inmates. We're exposed to the inmates. They're in the same area. We're in the same area. When we have issues and we need medical to come, they're the ones that have to come. So currently, we're not having any issues as far as the medical coverage is concerned, or the medical situation for the inmates is concerned.
That's good, because I know in some facilities the dialogue was to be to establish that working relationship, and obviously we're going through emergent times, basically to make sure we understand when does medical supersede safety and custody, and when does safety and custody go ahead and say, or safety and security, when is medical able to step up and say these are the things we can do, and when is custody able to say, okay, hold up, we need to do this first?
Right. Well, remember, to any of the medical people in the medical field, medical profession, we call them inmates, we call them detainees, they call them patients. They're not inmates or detainees to the medical profession, they're patients. To us, they're detainees and they're inmates. Sometimes that line, sometimes a problem develop, as far as that is concerned, but usually it works itself out.
Well, I'm pretty, Russ, do you have any closing questions you want to ask?
I think more of just like a little bit of a statement. Wanted to thank Elias, first of all. But I think that this has been, a really enlightening and important, topic and interview, because there's a lot of correctional departments out there that are not where New York is right now, and a lot of them could be. So they need to pay attention, see how New York's doing it, improve upon it, and get their ass ready to start having to deal with this, because they could be where New York is right now.
Yeah, and I just want to say something before we give our closing thoughts, is that Elias had to fight for the preventive measures, which, again, it's just making it cut down to just the essential employees that are needed, kind of have that contingency plan where we eliminate the staffing. And yes, programming at this point has to be pushed aside. There's no need for volunteers at this point. And obviously visitors. I believe, again, the inmates would be okay with that. I believe the visitors would be okay with that. I mean, yes, some visitors come to visit their loved ones, but there's also visitors that come because they feel obligated. Because, this is, my brother, I got to see him, but they'd rather be at home. But either way, once you break the news as this is why it's happening, they understand that there is a health concern. And I don't think they're willing to argue against that. And again, that's what you said before, Russ, about the education, which means as we find out reality, we need to be able to deliver that to staff who will then deliver it to the inmates who are going to understand it. But the key here, and actually it leads to one more question to Elias, is that how do you explain reality when the news keeps on sensationalizing this concern? How do you create control when the news seems to be going all over the place?
I got to tell you, Tony, it's hard as hell. And it's constant because I just told, I just met with members of my board, and our biggest problem, the coronavirus is a problem, but the bigger problem is the fear and the panic. And man, when it comes to social media, panic can be spread in a split second. Bad information, misinformation, or as one guy called it, fake news and things of that nature makes it really, really hard. Like people are afraid. And that include us, that include correction officers. We're afraid. We don't want to take this home to our family. We don't want to bring this to our co-workers and our friends. And it's hard to continuously, but it's a continuous process of saying, guys, we're going to get through this. We're going to get through this, but we got to be calm. Our profession teaches us to be calm. It trains us to be calm. And as hard as that may be, we have to remain and contain the fear and the panic that everybody else maybe can deal with. We can't. If the inmates see panic and fear amongst us, we got a problem. Trust me, we have a problem. And being the president of the union, one of my biggest push is right now is just to say to my guys, wash your hands. Use your hand sanitizer. Don't hug. No chest bump. No high five. If you're in the area and you can stay 6 feet away, do that. Drink water. Keep drinking water. You make sure you don't dehydrate. Those are the things that's important. Look, Tony, I mean, ultimately, we're going to get through this. And I'm not going to say we've been through worse, but I'm going to say we're going to get through this. And it's hard for correctional officers because unlike other people, we can't work from home. We cannot work via computer. We have to come in. I always use the example, if you're a firefighter and you're responding to a fire, you have the ability to sit it out. You have the ability to say, not run into that fire. If you're a police officer and you're involved in a shootout, you have the ability to hide behind a pole, a car, a van. But if you're a correction officer and blank hit the fan, we don't have the ability to hide, to run, to wait it out. We're right in the middle of it. And, for that reason, I guess that's why they call us the boldest. But, it is hard. And I guess I'm going on and on. The reality is that I say to my members is that let's just be calm. Let's let our training take place. Let's remain in charge because we're the leaders. And as long as we do that, we'll be okay.
Appreciate that. Hey, Russ, you have any final thoughts before we go to Elias?
Nope. I think I'll wrap that up, but I'll just say that I think this is one of the best. This is one of the best Zoom shows that we've done in a while, and I hope this goes to addressing and helping some people that are out there realizing there's other people facing the same fears as them, because this is a fearful time right now for our profession. But I know that everyone's gonna pick it up, and I think that we're gonna carry on in a noble way.
Well said, Russ. What about Elias? You have any closing thoughts?
Yeah, what I would say like to my members who watch this in particular, let's watch each other's back. Let's you know, be the leaders that we are. The reality is, Tony, I don't agree all the time with the managers in my agency. Sometimes we know that they have a tendency to try to put things in a computer, and what's the word they use? Algorithm, and come up with some type of, you know, that don't work here. And in corrections, you need to talk to the boots on the ground. And in corrections, you need to have a healthy respect for the people who put their lives on the line, sitting with these inmates, sitting in these jails, and trying to maintain some type of public safety. You know, to corrections all over the country that's dealing with this, because I know we're not the only one dealing with it. I know Nassau County over here, you know, they have their first case of an inmate that got the virus. I know Westchester County have their case of officers and inmates who are confirmed cases. So, you know, corrections throughout the country, we despite the fact that we're out of sight, out of mind, without us, the city and states that we live in would not be as safe. People would not be as safe as they think they are, and that's just a straight reality.
Well, you speak the truth, Elias. I will say my thoughts for closing that even though we're going through tough times, I'm hoping that, you know, it also brings us together, because this is something that we can't do alone. We need custody. We need the medical side. We need the managers. But the key here is to get that dialogue going, to get that communication, and to make sure that, you know, we have an understanding of each other's needs and concerns. And again, if there is a fear, you know, obviously we all have a level of fear, but we want to ask ourselves, is the fear realistic or is it sensationalized? And that's where we come in with education, both to the staff and inmates. I know we will make it through. I know we will rise above, but we can't do it alone. And right now, if we're working in isolation, it's not going to move us forward. It's going to move us backwards. And Elias, what you're doing right now is great, because you're bringing things out to the forefront and you're getting people motivated to do the right thing. Conversations, like Russ said, has to happen, because again, it's happening at Rikers. It could happen out west. So maybe we can learn from what you guys are pioneering. That's the key. So you guys could lead the nation in how this is being affected by, you know, going through it, and then making sure that you're able to share that information, and someone like yourself stepping up and saying, this is what we need, and keep on fighting till it happens. So bravo on that, Elias. And again, just a big fan.
All right. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it, man. And I agree with you 100%, Tony. We got to do it together, or it's not going to happen.
Well said. All right, guys. So again, the show is Tear Talk. If you haven't, please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. Bell's going to notify you every time I post up a video. And stay safe.